Hi, my name is Cerys and welcome to my research presentation. Today I'll be sharing with you my research dissertation on exploring the effects of in-person versus pre-recorded mindfulness intervention on the wellbeing of counselling students. Throughout this presentation, I will be sharing with you the background behind my research, my hypotheses, the methodology that was used, the results that were found, what these findings mean, the limitations to the study, future research, and finally, implications of this research. The term wellbeing refers to contentment or happiness and is specifically used to assess programs meant to enhance both mental and physical health. Some aspects that are part of the conceptual framework of wellbeing are relationships, the environment, autonomy, self-acceptance, personal growth, and life purpose. Mindfulness is the ability to self-regulate attention, to sustain attention on the experiences of the present moment and increase awareness of mental events. Research has shown that mindfulness is an effective strategy to improve mental health. The concept of mindfulness is evolving to incorporate mental attributes other than awareness, attention, and memory. These attributes are acceptance, non-judgment, and compassion. The mental health of university students is currently receiving a lot of attention in the field of mental health support. There is an increase in students' self-reported suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and depression. Low student wellbeing has been associated with rising financial stress and students facing more challenging coursework. The ability of counselling students to complete their educational responsibilities and to function as a counsellor may be negatively impacted by low wellbeing. Low wellbeing may impair the counselling students' ability to concentrate and make informed choices. In the UK, counselling trainees are responsible for covering their own tuition fees, living costs, supervision fees, and personal therapy. Many students studying counselling must work part-time jobs in addition to their studies. The theory that mindfulness aids in the brain's development of effective emotion regulation is well supported by research. Numerous studies have demonstrated that mindfulness meditation reduces reactivity and increases cognitive flexibility. During mindfulness, specific brain regions that are associated with better adaptive responses to challenging or unfavourable situations are active. Studies have shown that in-person mindfulness interventions can effectively address a range of mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. Research on the benefits of mindfulness for those in good mental health has also shown that it can lower stress, improve emotional control, and boost cognitive function. Mindfulness has traditionally been practiced through face-to-face interactions. However, the availability of online mindfulness content has expanded people's options, allowing them to practice mindfulness independently without direct supervision. Online mindfulness interventions offer an array of benefits, including the capacity to support self-directed and distance learning, which makes them very promising for enhancing mental health. Research suggests that online mindfulness activities can be as beneficial as those conducted in person. Self-help mindfulness therapies, including online apps, have been demonstrated in 15 randomized control studies to enhance self-reported mindfulness and lessen symptoms of anxiety and depression. Few studies have compared mindfulness practices in person and online. One study found that engaging in mindfulness practice with a computer avatar can yield experiences that are similar to those that can be encountered in person. Another study involving 92 military service members in an 8-week in-person compared to virtual world mindfulness-based stress reduction training found higher levels of trust in participants and clearer communication in those participants taking part in the face-to-face intervention compared to the online mindfulness intervention. Further research is needed to explore the impact of well-being in face-to-face mindfulness intervention compared to remote within a variety of populations. A limited number of research involving counselling students have included mindfulness as a component of well-being activities. One study using short-term mindfulness training involving counselling students found several benefits to mindfulness, both individually and professionally. Studies' findings demonstrated that mindfulness training enhanced both participants' sense of confidence and trust in their ability to understand the counselling process. Another study found that mindfulness impacts improved self-awareness, increased comfort with silence, and improved attentiveness to the counselling process. They also improved relationships with both them and their clients. There have been fewer studies on the use of online mindfulness with counselling students than in-person mindfulness. This is an area that warrants further research. There were two hypotheses examined within this research. The first hypothesis was completing face-to-face mindfulness session will have a significant positive effect on the well-being of trainee counsellors compared to pre-recorded online mindfulness session. Second hypothesis was completing pre-recorded mindfulness sessions will have a significantly positive impact on trainee counsellors' well-being compared to face-to-face mindfulness session. This research used the target population of counselling trainees. All the participants involved within the study were first-year MSc counselling students at Bangor University. This study used opportunity sampling, obtaining participants through the personal and professional development class. All participants were over the age of 18 and there was no exclusion related to gender, ethnicity or nationality. 68 participants took part in the questionnaire altogether. After cleaning the data, only participants that had completed all 4 questionnaires went on to analysis, leaving 28 participants within the study. After cleaning the data, 68% of participants were female and 32% were male. The mean age of the participants was 28.6 years old. Prior to taking part in the mindfulness intervention, 4 participants had never taken part in mindfulness, 2 participants regularly took part in mindfulness, and 22 participants had briefly taken part in mindfulness. A repeated measure design was employed within this research. The first independent variable was time, before and after each mindfulness intervention. The second independent variable was mode of delivery, in person or pre-recorded, and the dependent variable was participants' well-being. The measures used within this study consisted of the 18-item psychological wellbeing questionnaire. This questionnaire included 18 wellbeing statements that are rated on a 7-point Likert scale, with 1 being strongly agree and 7 being strongly disagree. The stimuli used within this study was a 30-minute pre-recorded audio of mindfulness activity created by a qualified mindfulness instructor and an in-person mindfulness session led by the same qualified mindfulness instructor. As part of the MSc Counselling course, students have to take part in a personal and professional development session each week. Within this, students take part in a 30-minute mindfulness activity for 2 weeks as part of their self-care training. All 4 PPD groups took part in an in-person mindfulness session and a pre-recorded mindfulness session. This activity was available to all students on the course and was not specific to students participating in the research study. All students taking part in the research study completed a wellbeing questionnaire before the mindfulness activity and a wellbeing questionnaire after the mindfulness activity. The questionnaire was accessed through a website called Sona, which is specific for psychology students to participate in other psychology research studies within Bangor University. Sona gathers participants by advertising information about the study, what the researcher requires you to do, how long the study lasts, and how many credits you will get for participating within the study. All 4 questionnaires were accompanied by participant information sheets, consent forms, and debrief forms in both Welsh and English. Through completing the questionnaire via Sona, each participant gained 1 credit for each one of the questionnaires they completed, overall gaining 4 Sona credits. Participants were informed prior to the PPD class that they were going to be taking part in 1 in-person mindfulness session and 1 pre-recorded mindfulness session as part of their self-care training. All students were expected to participate in the mindfulness activity unless they had concerns about the activity due to physical or mental health. All participants were also informed prior to sessions that there were going to be an optional questionnaire element that they can take part in for the research study. There are 4 PPD groups which take place on Monday or Tuesday afternoons. During the first week, the 2 Monday groups took part in an in-person 30-minute mindfulness session led by a qualified mindfulness instructor and a pre-recorded 30-minute mindfulness session created by the same qualified mindfulness instructor in the second week. The other half of the sample participated in the same activities but completed the pre-recorded mindfulness activity led by a qualified mindfulness instructor in the first week, and then completed the in-person mindfulness activity led by the same qualified mindfulness instructor in the second week. This was done to counterbalance the data. Counterbalancing is a technique used to deal with order effects when using a repeated measure design. The mindfulness sessions are based off a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. The pre-recorded mindfulness activity was emailed to the PPD lecturer prior to the session so it could be played to the room aloud. The purpose of sitting meditation was to build foundational skills of paying attention to the body and breath, understand how to work skillfully with natural tendency of mind, noticing aversion, how safely approach unwanted experiences, and using breath. The first questionnaire was completed before the first mindfulness activity. The second questionnaire was completed straight after the first mindfulness activity. The third questionnaire was completed before the second mindfulness activity, and the fourth questionnaire was completed straight after the second mindfulness activity. Qualitative questions on the mindfulness experiences were incorporated into the questionnaire before the initial mindfulness session, and the 2 questionnaires completed after both the mindfulness interventions. This study adheres to the BPS, BACP and NCP's guidelines for ethical research and practice. This study has also been approved by Bangor University School of Psychology and Sports Science Research, Ethics and Governance Committee. All participants were provided with an information sheet and consent form before they can access each questionnaire. This included what the study entailed, what will happen to their data, if they would like to take part in the study, how their data is kept confidential, any negative effects the mindfulness may result in, signposting for any negative effects, how to withdraw from the study, and how long they have to withdraw from the study. Confidentiality and data protection statements were also incorporated into the information sheet, and all participants were given a unique code at the end of the first questionnaire to keep the data anonymous. Throughout all of the PPD sessions, which the mindfulness sessions took place in, a PPD tutor was present at all times to monitor students and provide support if required. This tutor is a qualified counsellor and responsible for supporting students throughout their PPD class. A repeated measures ANOVA was conducted to examine the independent variable of mindfulness intervention and the independent variable of time on the dependent variable of counselling students' wellbeing. There was no main effect found on the mindfulness intervention and no main effect found on the time of wellbeing scores. There was also no significant interaction of the time of delivery and the mode of delivery. The group in which the mindfulness intervention was completed in did not have an impact on the effect of either mindfulness interventions on counselling students' wellbeing. The qualitative questions were analysed through themes. The main themes found before the first mindfulness intervention were finding mindfulness effective when they had previously tried it, being excited to try something new, feeling it will be hard to concentrate, finding it hard to imagine things, feeling it does not work for them, and being open-minded but having feelings that it's not for them. The main themes after the in-person mindfulness intervention were that it was relaxing, not being able to focus, the environment was too loud and heightened their sensory processing issues, and that it was relaxing but hard to focus. The main themes after the pre-recorded mindfulness intervention were that it was relaxing, it was boring, not a group activity, hard to concentrate, and it was fine but hard to concentrate. The study aimed to explore the effect of pre-recorded mindfulness intervention compared to in-person mindfulness intervention had on counselling trainees' wellbeing. These findings did not support either hypotheses being researched. One reason why the hypotheses may not have been supported is the length of time the study took place. Previous research have used mindfulness interventions consistently for around 6 weeks, with some studies consisting of participants taking part in mindfulness interventions for a couple of months or years. This allows for more data to be gathered, creating a better understanding of the effects of mindfulness from using it long term. Another reason why the hypotheses may not have been met is the wellbeing questionnaire used. Other research studies use specific mindfulness-based questionnaires to understand its effects on participants. These findings are in contrast to previous research for in-person compared to remote mindfulness interventions that found that both remote and in-person mindfulness intervention had an impact on wellbeing. However, many of these studies did not look at counselling trainees, and this may have been a factor that altered the results. This study also explored some qualitative questions to understand how the participants were feeling throughout the study. These findings suggested that even though the participants' wellbeing scores had no effect, some of the participants enjoyed the intervention and would take part again. The qualitative questions also suggested that participants enjoyed taking part in the in-person mindfulness intervention more than the pre-recorded mindfulness intervention. One area that came up in the qualitative findings is that a few of the participants find it hard to concentrate with the environment the study took place in. This is an area that may have influenced the results. Being in a quieter room or doing the mindfulness one-to-one may have created results that were significant. This study is limited to a small sample size. The study only lasted 2 weeks, with participants only taking part in 2 mindfulness interventions. Future research could extend the study to understand if doing either pre-recorded or in-person mindfulness over a longer period of time has any impact on counselling trainees' wellbeing. Another limitation to this study was the environment that it took place in. The study took place in a university building and participants took part in the mindfulness within groups. This environment may have altered the findings of the study, with some participants finding it hard to concentrate with the environment being too loud. This is something that could be looked at in future research. Using one-to-one mindfulness in a quieter space may produce significant results. This study has beneficial implications for counselling. It has allowed us to understand that counselling students are under a lot of pressure and need to take time for self-care. This study is the start of understanding if mindfulness could be a beneficial option for counselling trainees to increase their well-being and possibly use it within their therapeutic work. Within the real world, this study has positive implications for accessing mindfulness within remote areas that has a similar benefit to in-person mindfulness. This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below.